VCR Redux will begin in T-5 minutes.
What the fart is VCR Redux?
It's the show where we take movies from the VCR era and bring them back to today.
Well, how do we do that?
Well, we start by talking about a VHS classic, and usually you'll say something like,
I haven't been this uncomfortable since I watched Meatballs 4 Meatballs to the Rescue with my parents. Oh yeah, or you'll say something stupid like,
I wish we lived in a world where the Garbage Pail Kids made as many movies as the Muppets.
but I know you'll always see it through with a positive attitude.
I hate this movie, I hate being here, I hate all of this. Oh, Jamie Kennedy. Oh, well, shit. Well, let's go for this.
He was in Son of Mask. This is genius.
I am not a gamer. I'd rather read books. I'm just
Ian's like the old lady that's like, I got video game monsters, I got toy monsters in here.
As long as we respect the passion and the artistry that went into these films.
You know, obviously they took this movie, it's 93, right? And you're like, what do you want to see in your Mario movie? And they're like, oh, we want it to be grim, we want a lot of death, we want tits and ass.
Oh, and then we start the pitch ideas with modern day sequels like
Weekend at Bernie's 3, Cocaine Mountain.
Sometimes we take it kind of seriously.
I'll watch a Paul Verhoeven alien movie.
Oh my gosh, that alien will have more vaginas than anything you've ever seen in your life. Sometimes this Hawaiian shirted fool will pitch something stupid like,
I would take out the virtual reality stuff and just have it be about Jeff Fahey mowing the lawn.
Sometimes the best pitches come from the live chat.
Alex Bonafonte also pitches Grand Theft Starfighter Vice Galaxy.
wait, I thought I had the best pitches.
And what happens at the end of the movie? The ultimate fart. The fart that the warmth goes like all the way down to your socks.
The only rules are, there are no rules. Sometimes we cross over franchises.
Only the truck from Tango and Cash can kill Christine.
And sometimes we travel back in time.
Like 1995 is missing a good Universal Soldier sequel.
But you never know what we're gonna pitch next.
What do you want Daniel Stern behind like a muzzled mask? Like,
We all know it should be Pesci behind the mask, and like underneath the mask, you should hear him going like fritter, 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 fritter.
you are so proud of yourself for that one. I can't stand you.
I would also love to see a Charles Bronson version of It's a Wonderful Life.
What?
Direct to DVD.
If you made a shot-for-shot remake of Scarface with Goofy as Al Pacino, it would be amazing. Gosh, you need me to be the bad guy.
It's like the worst 1987 Disney movie Disney's ever made. Schlongo, directed by Jim Wynorski.
Like, I would watch a whole bowl of that.
Do the John Holmes story. Add a comedy spin to it.
Wow, the Wonderland murders are so funny.
I'd watch it on my mobile.
Something happens and he goes into a coma. He gets like, hit by a car or something. I know this is dark, but like, bear with me. He's got to go on an
Did you just go like Hard to Kill with Ferris Bueller?
I'd watch it on my iPad.
If you want to just like throw in the kitchen sink, I mean, it all works. Like Alien vs. Predator vs. RoboCop. Like if that works. Alien vs. Predator vs. Terminator. That works.
Alien vs. Predator vs. Ernest. That works.
That works.
I respect everything you just said. I need David Silver and Terry Silver and the Sloan family all learning the Quicksilver. But they're doing it in Breakin' 3 Hydraulic Boogaloo. And it's underwater. It's gonna be incredible. Eat your fucking shit out, James Cameron. I got the underwater movie you can't touch.
That was the most disgusting thing I've ever heard in my life.
Mr. Toxie Goes to Washington.
My ass would be in the theater tomorrow.
If Harley Quinn gets 7 movies, then Tank Girl should get at least 70.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my life.
I mean, why should we even bother with Look Who's Talking when Air Bud is soaring to new highs?
All I know is I want Danny McBride.
I'd want him doing anything other than writing Halloween movies, honestly. Anything that keeps him away from that fucking job, I'm for it.
Just let him talk out of his butt. I don't care how he does it.
I'd rather not.
Austin Powers doing the Macarena.
That would be the opening credits. Come on.
But we have not yet had Die Hard on a half pipe. What if John McClane Jr. was a pro skateboarder and also an avid machine gun enthusiast? Skate or Die Hard.
What up, virtual people? Welcome to the 138th episode of VCR Redux. We take your favorite franchises out of the analog era and bring them back to 2024. I'm your host, pop culture punk Chris Stiles, joined as always by my co-host with the most, film professor Ian Klink.
Spring break, baby!
And we have two radical guests on the show tonight. First up, the only VCR veteran who sells her screenplays in New York City. Caitlin Coyne is back on the show.
Yeah!
Hello.
And rounding out this righteous crew, video store veteran and cosplay killer Scott Benson is back on the show.
Yeah!
Thank you so much for coming back on, guys. We are here today to sequelize the inconceivable, to resurrect the cross-section of Rob Reiner in WrestleMania, and to prepare to die for the death of Inigo Montoya's father. That's right, folks. This world needs Princess Bride 2, and we're here to give it to you. But before Ian says as you wish, we got a dish on how Princess Bride came into our lives and what we love about it. And of course, that goes double for you at home and everyone watching the live chat. Is it Love at First Laserdisc? Vital VHS? Hit us up in the chat and let us know how Princess Bride came into your lives. So, Caitlin, when did you first get Princess Brided?
I don't know. I don't like the way you worded that, first of all.
I do that.
Thank you.
That's a thing I do to annoy Ian. Every movie is a verb, and that's how we kickstart this discussion, just to put Ian on his heels a little bit.
Ugh.
He's a little bit better when he's saltier.
Don't worry about it. I don't know. It's like, to me, it's one of those movies that you've just seen over and over and over and over again in your life. Not your life, obviously, but my life. And I watched it a million times. I've read the book once just to see if the book was any different from the movie. I don't remember it being any different from the movie. But I don't know. It's just like one of those classics.
I definitely agree.
And talking about this with my friends because they're like, how do you make a sequel for Princess Bride? And I'm like, I don't know.
Oh gosh, we do nothing lately. We've been doing nothing but like impossible to sequelize movies. But you know something? Sean Gold usually pops in the chat and at the very least pitches an Airborne spinoff or two. So we always have that as a baseline to build off of. And you know, if it grinds, we can skate it. That's all I can say. Andre the Giant would be great on rollerblades. But I love, I will say one thing that I've kind of always appreciated about this movie, like the existence of it, because, and I'll get to that, I'm not like the most familiar with this movie. I've actually seen it twice, but I love that this movie is like one link in the chain of Rob Reiner's incredible run. Like Rob Reiner went on a run as a director that literally I don't think can be beaten, where he did like something like 9 or 10 like classics in a row. It's like Stand By Me, this is one of them. North, I know people don't love North, but I absolutely love North.
You're a sick man.
A Few Good Men is in there.
You're on your own with that one, dude. But
he is a dartboard guy.
Spinal Tap,
he lands it. It works.
Oh, and Misery, yeah. Like he's an incredible run that he doesn't get the respect as like a director that I feel that he should.
Now, Chris, you're forgetting the one part about Rob Reiner's career that you and I both can say is stellar and Oscar worthy. That is him as the announcer in Bye Bye Love.
Oh my God, the DJ, not the announcer, but yeah.
Well,
the AM radio divorce DJ or whatever. Oh God, yeah, underrated work right there. The great Gary David Goldberg, folks. We got to do a Family Ties episode of this show one of these days, just for Gary. But I want to know how Scott first got Princess Brided.
So, I've seen this movie twice. Just before this episode, and I saw it about 20 years ago, and I saw it. I was dating a girl, and I lost a bet, and she's like, if I'm right or whatever it was, then you have to watch Princess Bride with me. And I enjoyed it, but I just never went back and revisited it. But today reminded me of how many memes and catchphrases this movie has spawned out into pop culture. You know what I mean? It's just like, goddamn, that's another one. That's another one. You know what I mean? You always hear people say this or that. And it's like, this movie really, I don't know if there's too many movies that have spawned this many little memeable things that, you know what I mean, still exist, you know, in pop culture today.
Yeah, it's definitely earned its place in the pantheon.
Yeah, this
of 80s pop
movie and the
culture.
Never-Ending Story is basically the internet.
This movie reminds me of the Never-Ending Story so much, and I guess because of the book thing. So
yeah,
even when I was little, it's just, I don't know, they always seem tied together, the Never-Ending Story and Princess Bride when I was a kid.
I love whenever Ian's friend Derek is on the show and Never-Ending Story or anything Wolfgang Peterson comes up. I love that somewhere out there, Derek Lufkin is going Euro trash right now.
Oh my God. No, he's out there watching Outbreak right now. That's what he's doing.
I do want to say
to revisit those though.
No,
I'm a big.
There's one great Wolfgang Peterson. Well, two if you count Never-Ending Story. The other one is freaking Enemy Mine, and you'll never convince me otherwise.
Fair enough.
I did want to say too, though, that I'm a huge Columbo fan. Like that's a show that I will still put on anytime that I'm just like looking for something in the background.
Yes.
And it occurred to me today that if they made this movie today, they would have worked in a gimmick somewhere where Peter Falk said, "Okay, just one more thing."
One more thing.
They didn't pay service to that then, but they would today for sure. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Just the way they would have written it in somehow.
Just one more chapter.
And I was waiting for it that whole time. Every time they cut back to him, I'm like, "Come on, just say the thing," but he never did. So.
Give me the line.
So when did young Iowa Ian first get Princess Brided?
This is one of the VHS tapes that my parents had. You know, this is on. I can't remember what one is before it or what one was after it.
But you remember it in second position, middle of a EP tape.
Might have been third. It might have been third. I can't. I honestly, truthfully, I want to say Annie. Either Annie was first or after. But like when I think of Princess Bride, Annie pops in there. So I don't know, but
I can see that.
But I used to watch this all the time. You know, it was. And I'll tell you what did it. It was the rats. The rats in the forest.
Usual size, the Russes.
Always got me. I don't know why, but as a horror fan, as a little kid, it was those rats that just.
I wonder, is that the same rat that was in that what was it, Ghost Story? Like there were a couple movies with like big rats around this time.
There was Food of the Gods. I think was one of
Nightmares.
And maybe I'm thinking of Nightmares. Yeah, Nightmares.
Yeah, that had Night of the Rat.
Yes. Yeah, Night of the Rat. Yeah. I could see that rat being like repurposed, you know. I had that, I don't know, it just like invoked the same type of feeling.
I've seen that rat suit before.
Right?
Yeah, like I'm telling you, in the 80s they reused, you know how many movies have a PKE meter from Ghostbusters in it? Like 2,000 movies. Like there's so many props that got reused.
Chris.
On the Star Wars Holiday Special, if you guys have watched that recent documentary, they repurposed the rat head from, I think it was Food of the Gods, in the cantina scene with B. Arthur. But in the cantina scene of the Star Wars Holiday Special, there's a rat head.
This show.
I love that's one of my favorite episodes, honestly, that we've done was our Star Wars Holiday Special. We came with great stuff.
Because you made me watch that damn thing.
Oh, that's my favorite thing is we had Bobby on, you know, and the only thing Bobby has seen of Star Wars is the Holiday Special, and the only reason he watched it because it has B. Arthur in it. So that is a man, you know, with integrity, and I respect him 1,000,000%.
B. Arthur part of the Star Wars canon? I had no idea.
She is now.
B. Arthur is part of the Star Wars canon. She was there before Empire Strikes Back was even there. It's in a weird world. We're just derailing this episode entirely now, but it's a weird world where you watch.
There's a part of me
Wookiees talk to each other for like a half an hour with no subtitles.
Oh yeah, Caitlin.
And there's like Chewbacca's father on like a Wookiee holiday puts on a VR headset, and it's clearly like some type of musical porn to him. It's really really wild.
Jefferson Starship.
Yeah,
You
it's
have
a great.
to,
check out our
Disco Star Wars Jefferson Starship. Oh yeah.
Yes, but getting back on track,
No. Before
what
we
gas
even go
station
there,
did you stumble into
there's a
and
part of
rent
me
this
that
movie?
wants somewhere in this world that somebody came up to B. Arthur, some nerd carrying a Star Wars thing for her to sign, and I just hope B. Arthur slapped the kid in the face. Like that, there's just something about that image that's just too beautiful. But I will also say this: it was also, and this still to this day when I watch it, and Kaylin, you'll understand this. It's like even to this day, the wolf in the cave from Neverending Story will still get you. Yeah, yes. This old hag in this movie who says boo. When she's saying boo to the, okay, bow down to your king, bow to your new queen. She had true love. When that lady says boo to the camera as a kid, that was the lady I saw in my closet.
Really?
All right. Well, if you're not gonna talk about the gas station pizzeria you first rented Princess Bride from, then I gotta ask, what your favorite character is, because this is one of those movies that has it's just really cast perfectly, and the cast I feel like elevates it, and it's really hard to pick a favorite. I mean, between Chris Sarandon, the great Chris Sarandon from Fright Night and Child's Play, you got Andre the Giant, you got Billy Crystal, you got Carol Kane, you got Robin Wright, you got Carrie Elway. Indigo Montoya, Wallace Shawn, fucking Wallace Shawn, come on. Columbo, this is a really sneaky deep cast.
Oh, stars, a constellation of stars twinkling for our enjoyment.
Oh, wow. That's poetically put.
That is beautiful.
Yeah. So what's your favorite? I mean, for me, I kind of got to say Andre the Giant, because honestly, that's sort of the reason that I watched it as a kid. Like, that was the gateway drug. It was like, oh, this is Andre the Giant's in a movie. I don't care what it is. I'm going to watch it.
And I think Andre the Giant's character is so compelling because he's the muscle, right? That's his character. He's the muscle, but he's such a reluctant muscle. He doesn't really want to do it. He's always
my way is not a very sporting way. I thought was pretty funny, but.
And I think that's such a great concept, like the muscle who doesn't want to be the muscle. That's what makes the movie great. It has such characters who are just such bizarre representations of these absolutely common characters. You have a muscle who doesn't want to be muscles. You got the mind, the thinker who's not really a great thinker.
Yeah, it's so true. Oh God, Wallace Shawn though. It's like, how do you not pick Wallace Shawn as your favorite? He
is the role that everybody
perfect
knows
in
him
everything.
by. I mean,
yeah,
I know him from my dinner with Andre. No, I'm just joking.
Oh, you fucking snob! Yeah, I love that movie too, but you're a lying snob. It's totally clueless, and you know it. And for me,
it's Heaven Help Us. It will always be Heaven Help Us with Wallace.
It's goofy.
Shawn.
It's a goofy movie for me.
But and I've talked about this on the show before. This is the movie where if you see that actor, you say it's the guy from The Princess Bride, or you watch Forrest Gump and it's like, oh, the girl from Princess Bride, or you watch Alien Nation and you go, oh yeah, Mandy Patinkin.
You, me, and 3 people watch Alien Nation.
Everybody should watch Alien Nation. That's a genius film. But
that's the one where they get drunk on curdled milk, right?
Heck yeah, man.
Okay.
God, we found another one.
Yeah.
I saw that in the theater, believe it or not.
We should
do the drunk on milk and shooting through the car or the car door or whatever. They were taking cover and the gun was just blowing the side out of the car. I believe was that movie too.
Mandy Patinkin, man. I will say this: he was also on one of my favorite shows that I don't think anybody ever talks about, which is Dead Like Me. Did anybody get into that show?
My roommate was obsessed with it, Steve. Yeah,
great show, wonderful show. Didn't get the credit that show deserved. I don't think. Only 2 seasons, but
USA flew too close to the sun too fast. I think they came out. What?
Everything about USA Network is the Icarus story.
Yeah. It's constantly flying too close and then falling and then healing and repairing and and then just the this vicious cycle. Like it just
there's nothing more I want in this world than a VHS tape of 78 hours of USA Network from 1998. Like that's all I want. I just want 78 hours of USA Up All Night. Like,
you know, how many times I would watch the Stepfather movies on those types of those Sunday nights. Those were like the Sunday nights of USA Network. They wouldn't show you quite the edginess of Saturday night, but it would still be
there's
quite
a
delicious.
great double feature out there of Pumpkinhead 2 and Stepfather Part 2. That's a great...
I would just honestly, if we're gonna talk USA Network,
there's the template that we need for our sequel for Princess Bride. It's just, you know,
it's Stepfather 2.
Yeah, take the
Channel 11, and it was daytime, so your parents were at work. They didn't know what you were watching.
Oh yeah,
Howling 3. I learned so many things from those movies.
Oh man, you're just hitting all of Ian's. You're hitting all of Ian's favorites in one
Kaylin,
night.
You could not be cooler now that you mentioned Howling 3, the marsupials.
But I will say this though, if we're going to talk USA Network and what we'd like from there, I would love to have several hours of uncut episodes of Night Flight. Do you remember that show?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They showed all kinds of like almost independent films in there, mixed in with a bunch of music video stuff. It was just kind of a mishmash of all kinds of wild crap. So
I can see the logo. I can see it like a chrome logo.
Yeah.
It almost looks like it would be like the cover of like the cover of like a late 70s, early 80s like bands like album, you know, like the band logo almost it looked like. But at any rate, trying to steer it back a little bit towards Princess Bride. You know, when I threw it on last night, an interesting observation from my roommate, he goes, I don't know why they went with the grandfather telling the story, with doing it this way. Like, I would have just started the movie. I don't know why they did this, but I think it kind of works. I mean, I don't know if they would do it that way now, but...
Well, you know, I mean, that's the book. If you watch, or if you ever read the book by William Goldman, you know, the famous screenwriter, the Butch Cassidy and Sundance screenwriter, and he was a novelist too. And The Princess Bride was a book within a book within a book. I mean, it was a generational kind of book. So,
but that also makes sense to me because in that time period, especially a few years earlier in the 80s, that was when you had like all those books, those choose your own adventure books that we were getting and things like that. And I think that's where your never ending story also kind of seeped out of that. I kind of get it. You know what I mean? That it makes sense that they would start out with this as a story being read and then be able to kind of throw you into the movie and pull you back out and to have that narrative there because it was kind of that same idea of reading a book. You know what I mean? And then of course, Fred Savage jumping in a few times like, that's not how this works, or you know, you're not telling it right, or what, you know, that kind of thing.
She doesn't marry Lord Humperdinck. That was it, right?
Yeah. You want to read the story? I'll stop reading the story. I mean, I honestly think I wouldn't want it without the grandfather
But that's what I think is so great about the movie. I think it's like such great character studies, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I mean, I was like, at the beginning of the movie, I was kind of thinking like, oh yeah, he's probably right. It's usually better to just start the story. But then like by the end of the movie, I'm like, oh no, I do like these little breaks. Like this is kind of fun, you know?
Well, and
I think I didn't like it maybe when I was 10 that way because between those breaks and commercial breaks, it became too much.
I can see that watching on TV. Yeah, I can understand that. But I think what I like about that, you know, the you know, as you call it, an anthology, you know, the wraparound story, it allows for the actual Princess Bride to be a fantasy because, you know, Peter Falk and Fred Savage are in a reality world. Like that world is so reality. I mean, it starts off with a video game, for crying out. You know, which makes the whole thing so. Like that's why I love that I can believe this story, and it allows as a filmmaker Rob Reiner to go as far as he wants to go with the Princess Bride world. And you have rats that are 10 times too big, or you have stuff like that. Plus, did you ever see Deadpool 2, the Princess Bride version?
What?
So
I didn't.
Deadpool
No,
did the
definitely not.
when the second movie came out, they re-edited the second movie to be. They actually got Fred Savage and Deadpool to reenact the beginning.
Oh yes. Okay.
And then they edit the Deadpool 2 with this new wraparound version.
No.
So I'll share something though that the wraparound personally. Like I said, the first time I watched it was basically I'd lost a bet with the girl I was dating at the time, and it was kind of a eye roll because I'm like, okay, this is one of these movies that I hear women talking about all the time, so it's probably not going to be something I enjoy because when you're 20, you just want to see explosions and shit like that. But that did kind of carry me in because it's like I kind of related to Fred Savage at the beginning, and I'm like, I don't want to hear this story or see this, and then it kind of pulls you in. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, okay, so it actually isn't what you expected, because when you hear Princess Bride, you do think it's just going to be kind of Bride up in the tower kind of stuff, and or a Snow White story, something to that effect. But I did at that time. I was like, yeah, I can kind of relate to Fred Savage here a little bit, and it worked. So.
You two were being held prisoner by your own.
I could definitely. I mean, I don't think there's a kid that grew up in the '80s in the Chicago suburbs that doesn't see a kid wearing like a Walter Payton T-shirt jersey and doesn't immediately like connect with that. Like I had that exact same fucking shirt, except mine was number 9 instead of number 34. Mine was for the punky QB, Jim McMahon. But. God, that shit takes me back so in such a big way.
Also, who doesn't want to grow up to be Peter Falk like that grandpa? Like I want to be that grandpa. I'm turning into that grandpa.
Well, before you get all the way there, I do want to go to the live chat, but I also want to say I'm hearing a little bit of like a feedback or a popping. I don't know if it's Caitlin or Scott, but I think one of you, if you have headphones to plug in, might want to try that because I feel like there's some feedback coming through on one of your things. But while you guys do that, I will go to the live chat real quick, and it is jam-packed today. Let me tell you about this massive crowd in our live chat, because from what I can see, I think it's Angie Saunders and Sean Gold. Those are the only things I'm seeing on my end of the chat. But thank you both so much for tuning in, and anyone else that is there, and if I missed you, I'm sorry. But I see Angie Saunders says, I never liked this movie the first time I saw it, but I grew to like it. I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Angie. Angie, again, the great, incredibly talented mashup artist. Her and John do some amazing mashups. Gold's Coast says, this movie was always on TV, and it was dope. He says, have fun storming the airborne pitches. Well, I can't wait, because he's already saying, Ian, my name is Mitchell Goosen. You took my waves. Prepare to die.
Okay, like...
He says again, my name is Mitchell Goosen. You took my waves. Prepare to die.
Okay, like
that might be enough, but I still want to figure out how the giant breaks the backbone itself of Devil's Backbone. There could be something interesting there.
There's not, but that's all
right. I think there is. It's as honorable as Indigo Montoya himself. But it is just about that time. So again, this is my cue for.
Well, what is your favorite parts though? Like I always love this part of. There's so many good parts in this movie. What are your guys' favorites?
Oh God, what's my favorite part? I think when they're having the sword fight. Is that the wrong answer? I feel like every answer I pick, there's like 20 more jumping in its place. But I think when they're having that sword fight and you're like, oh, I know what's going to happen. But you never know what's going to happen because then he's like, actually, I'm left-handed. And it was just such an amazing and tensions building. And he's waiting for the good pirate Roberts to climb up like the hill. And there's just so much wonderful, delicious tension building, and before you know what's going, you think you know what's going to happen, something else is going to happen. You kind of know he's going to get away, but how is he going to get away? I don't know. I think that's my favorite part.
Yeah, I mean, but besides the rat, I always remember.
That's right. You like the rat?
But like Billy Crystal, just having Billy Crystal and Carol Kane? Is that who that was?
Kane.
I mean, just
when a stranger calls fame.
Yeah, just I just laughter. But I will say this. Cary Elwes, because of this movie and Robin Hood Men in Tights, He is our generation's Errol Flynn. I'll stand by that, and I'll say it. Only
well, I mean, you could
Yes.
definitely see how Mel Brooks, like, no question about it. He was friends with Carl Reiner. He watched this movie and is like, "That's the guy. He's gonna be Robin Hood in my movie." Like, it's very very obvious and well cast on both parts. You know, I feel like this is one of those movies I feel like this is one of those movies where the cast really elevates it, and it's not that it wouldn't be good, but it has this just pitch perfect cast. So everything that would be good becomes great. And ironically, for favorite scenes, I kind of am almost tempted to say, and this is the scene that I hated when I was a kid, but the poisoning of the wine. So I've poisoned both. I've developed the resistance to iocane. So, just because that's Wallace Shawn at his finest, being his most Wallace Shawniest. But also, oh, sorry.
I heard a theory that the poison is probably something you smell. So when he brought it over for him to sniff, he poisoned. He was like, you can smell it if you want. And then it really didn't matter which cup because he would already die from the smell. That's a fan theory I heard online, but.
I buy that. I could see that.
I'm kind of with you on the wine tasting. That's probably one of the things that I found definitely amusing. And, one thing I was a little bummed about was Andre the Giant. They didn't really keep it going with that whole rhyme thing, because I got a weird chuckle out of that when he goes, "No more rhyming, and I mean it." And then he just goes, "Anyone want a peanut?" And I just was like, oh, cool. Is he going to be just this smartass? But then they didn't kind of keep going with that. I was like, that was kind of a bummer, because Andre the Giant with his speaking voice, that was just it just struck me as really funny for some odd reason. I don't know why, but it was I would have liked to seen some more rhyming from Andre, I think.
Oh yeah, no, I think that they could have run with that. I think.
Do you ever see a picture of that man holding a beer can in his hand?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks like he's holding
this tiny little.
Yeah, it looks like he's holding a shot glass. It's ridiculous. Seriously. That dude picked up Arnold Schwarzenegger with one hand and put him on a fucking banister to keep him from paying a check. Yeah.
Oh, it's massive. If you watch any pictures, it's great.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's amazing. And Arnold and Andre the Giant and I think Wilt Chamberlain, and Arnold looks tiny compared to these two guys. Arnold looks like their younger brother with an addiction to weightlifting. But so again, we are past the half hour. It is definitely time for some Princess Bride sequel talk. What do you want to see? What don't you want to see? I'm kind of glad we didn't get one back in the day, honestly. Because it probably would have been Carrie Elway and Robin Wright on some other adventure, and I never know if I'm saying his name right. And there are some pitches in the chat, and I see Alex Bonafonte's in there as well. Thank you for tuning in, Alex. But I think the better choice than that is obviously to just do Inigo Montoya is now the Dread Pirate Robert, and what's his adventure. You almost have a little bit of I'm kind of thinking of the Quest of all movies with Jean-Claude Van Damme, where it's because now, I mean, if you're doing it nowadays, right?
Get out of here. The Quest.
Hear me out.
5 people know The Quest. One of them's Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Hear me out. James Remar was in The Quest.
Yeah, sorry, 7 people know it. Good God.
It's a Universal movie.
I stand by my previous statement.
No, but you kind of have this, because if you did it now, you could have Manny Patinkin still playing Inigo Montoya, and there's he hasn't been the Dread Pirate Roberts for a long time. It's passed on 3, 4, 5, 6 generations later now, but somehow he gets pulled into an adventure, and he has to be this guy again. And where you could do anything with that if you just base it off that, instead of having a giant now, because you don't have Andre the Giant. You could have a midget or a hobbit or CG. What you could do, you can get a lot more fantastical in this version, and that's something I wouldn't be opposed to seeing.
They'd bring a dragon in.
Yeah,
before
why
the
not?
hat check.
You gotta have dragon farts. I mean, there's a version that I was thinking of earlier today. So tomorrow I'm going to go see Ghostbusters with my daughter. So I'm looking forward to this. But there is this thing, and I'm waiting for the news outlet to create a word for it. But it's like nostalgia thirst. Like that is kind of what we're wanting nowadays. And people bitch and whine about nostalgia thirst, yet they want to drink from the fountain. It's like,
true.
oh, that's so stupid. I wouldn't see that. Like they'll just lap it up. And there's a
The Flash was terrible. I saw it opening night. Yeah,
and I saw it again and again.
Haters.
And I still hated it.
Haters are the number one fan.
Let me get on the interwebs, people. But there's a part of me that wants to see a 2018 version of The Princess Bride 2.
Really weirdly specific. Why 2018?
Because that's kind of where this all started. Now it's starting to kind of be on the edge of it. But that was the real let's get everyone.
That's when I was hot.
The nostalgia
for The Princess Bride 2.
Yeah, and I
waiting.
And I honestly want to see everybody back. I want to see an old Mandy Patinkin. I want to see an old Carrie Elways and a Robin Wright together in a castle. I want to see Wallace Shawn's ghost, Othello, Hamlet style.
Oh yeah, I'd take a whole movie of just that. Honestly, I'm
but
fine with that.
But with a new kid who's a younger kid. But this time around, it's Fred Savage telling the story to his kid.
Well, obviously.
Who's now, this kid's into video games, and he's like, I was into video games when you were a kid, but let me read this to you, right? And you could tell the same story. You could actually tell the Princess Bride, but he adds things to the story that make it different,
Well, you know what they would do is they would tell a new story, and then they would have all of the original actors popping up in cameo roles throughout the movie.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. There's a perfect version of this in Alter Universe where they did this after Ghostbusters Afterlife. 2 months later, this came out in theaters.
But in your
now that I
equation,
think about it, this just occurred to me. The whole Carrie Elways on the machine, that was almost kind of a precursor to Saw a little bit.
That's true.
Think about that, yeah. Wow. But in your equation, Ian, you need to then have a young cast to kind of pass it off to.
Timothy Chalamet. The man can't do wrong.
Sprouse Brothers, one of the Sprouses.
Oh, the kids from Big Daddy?
Yeah.
If he looked me in my eyes and he said, what's the line? I can't believe I'm forgetting. As you wish. I'd be like, all right. Okay.
Wow.
Whatever you want, baby.
Who's the guy that's trying to be the new James Bond? He was in Bullet Train. Aaron something. Nah.
What the fuck is Bullet Train?
He was Kick-Ass. Whoever the kid was, the Kick-Ass.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
That's the one. Yeah, he's supposedly gonna be the new James Bond.
That's interesting.
Is he blonde? Have we gone back to a blonde Bond?
He's not. No, he was blonde in Bullet Train, but he's not. He's not now. He has black hair.
Wouldn't be going back. The last Bond was blonde.
Well,
I think they should just call him James Blonde.
That's what I meant. I don't think they should. James Bond is canonically his dark hair, so it kind of annoyed me when he went blonde. Not that I don't love that guy, Daniel Craig. He loves me. I love him.
Great.
He knows the moment we shared.
He knows what he did.
He knows what he did.
He knows what he did. All right. Well, there are some pitches in the chat, so I feel like it's a good time
read all of them but one person's.
Well,
really,
I'm gonna start.
One person.
I'm gonna start with Ian's favorite, Mr. Gold's Code. His first pitch, I should say. Fred Savage is sick, so Mitchell reads him a book about how a kid from California moves to Ohio, gets the girl, and saves the day with a downhill race from the evil preps. It's Princess Born.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. None of that makes sense.
Coming from the man who eats gas station pizza.
That makes
Wow, you're gonna
sense.
hold him against. They're gonna hold that against him for the rest of his life.
For the rest of his days.
Kayla, I wear it with pride. I'm still around.
Don't laugh at his jokes. This man hates Dokken. He has no respect for Dokken.
What about The Princess Bride, The Red Wedding? Because this ties into that.
Oh, that's good.
There's your dragon.
That's an idea.
There you go.
I'm upset that you guys think that this movie is so ridiculous. What I kind of liked about it is how, like, if you were little, it could be real. You know, there's no part of it that seems like true. It's eels that make noise and large rats and like medieval fucking times. Like, I don't even understand why you're like, you can add a dragon. It's just, I don't know. It just seems so like there's just such a tiny dollop of fantasy on top of it. Maybe I'm just fantasy oriented.
I mean, I think you have a good point. And to be fair, I didn't say add a dragon, but I did say you can get more fantastical with it. So, but I did say you can get more fantastical with it. But I think you have a point in that, like, part of what makes this movie work is it doesn't try and be some grand epic. It's not trying to be Willow. It's actually like a smaller, intimate story, considering what it usually these fantasy movies.
That's why Rob Reiner, if you watch it, Rob Reiner makes it look like it's a set. He purposely wanted it to look like a set. Like that was the whole story within a story thing. So that's, you know, so he meant it to look a little bit on the fantastical side.
Well, speaking of fantastical, Sean Gold has another fantastical pitch in the live chat. His second pitch: Mitchell gets a concussion skating and wakes up in a fantasy world where Wesley enlists his help to storm the castle and save the princess. It's Air Bride, where heroes aren't made, they are born.
They don't even need the wagon. They could just have him and the guy on his back. How about that?
For all of our normal audience out there, we do not get paid by Airborne producers at all. We have promoted their movie more than any other movie on this planet.
With that attitude,
we promote their movie more than they did when the movie came out.
Yeah.
Every time I try and promote the movie, you come out here and complain like me when I spilled soup on my favorite cardigan.
No, I complain like I did when I watched the movie, and the way most of the world complain when they watch the movie.
You know what? I want to say this too. If we do a sequel, just because for me these all kind of blend together. They go into like a village to buy something, and it's Christopher Lambert, and they're like, "I want 3 apples," and he's like, "There can only be one," and then just a quick little Highlander reference, and they
yeah,
we're on our
way. I like that.
I probably tried to pitch The Quickening or The Final Dimension as a subtitle for the episode, but
hey, pick one lane or the other, sir. But they're not direct sequels, and you know it.
My Highlander charms have failed me yet again. It's a sad state of affairs. But there are some more pitches in the live chat, and you could rest easy, Ian, because the next one's coming from Whiskey 41, Mr. Alex Bonafonte himself. His pitch: shot-for-shot remake starring Kevin Pollak's Peter Falk impression. The Big Show is Andre the Giant, Jack Black as Wallace Shawn, Janine Garofalo as the princess, and Curtis Armstrong as pirate, and MacGruber himself, Will Forte as Indigo Montoya. Wow. There's a lot of that I like. Some of that just threw me. Like Jack Black, I would love to be in it, but I would almost cast him as the Giant because I don't know what the Big Show is. I thought that was like a video game.
I was thinking Billy Crystal's character.
What's that?
Isn't the Big Show a wrestler?
I guess. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? There would be a cool
baseball game.
There'd be a cool version of Billy Crystal as the grandpa.
I
could buy that. I could buy Billy Crystal as the grandpa.
Jack Black as the witch.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't even know why we're having him as Andre the Giant. He belongs as the witch, and then Janine Garofalo as his wife. I think that would be hysterical. I think Janine Garofalo would kill that part.
Actually, Jack Black as Indigo Montoya would be great. It's basically just him doing Nacho Libre.
Nacho Libre.
I don't know.
Another movie 7 people know about.
Well, hey, it's Nacho Libre. It's not your favorite movie, I guess.
But Nacho anybody's favorite movie.
No.
Hey, it's really not mine. but
these jokes are getting
favorite
cheesy.
movie. You did a cheesy cheese joke?
Ooh, I damn it, there's a cheesy nacho reference
my
and I missed it.
apologies to Chad in New Mexico, who that's his favorite movie. Like,
I don't know.
Oh man. Okay, so
worse.
there's another one in the chat, and this was the source of good stuff last week. Alex Bonafonte pitches: the princess is conned by a debonair martial artist when the marriage goes sour and is forced to sign an NDA in The Captive Bride, starring Steven Seagal and Kelly LeBrock. That got darker than I expected it to.
It's disgusting.
I can only assume now that this is how their divorce wound up. She had to sign an NDA or something. That's pretty crazy. But Gold's Code saying, Ian, don't be jealous.
All my divorces end up that way.
Oh, hey. Someone's got to keep those lawyers and diamonds.
We want prenup. We want prenup. What?
But Gold's Code says, Ian, don't be jealous. You'll be singing Airborne the Musical soon enough. And that's right, folks.
I'll sing
I want it
if
to
you
be
write
known
it.
that Ian has promised Sean Gold, and I want the VCR audience to hold him to this, that if Sean Gold writes Airborne the Musical, Ian's going to sing the first number of it. So
I hope it's all barking.
I just hope you're practicing your like bumblebee. I want you to enunciate and really hit those pitches. I don't want you to.
I'll sing it the way it's going to be written. Like,
don't you Roseanne Barr this national anthem? All right, this is going to be this is going to be the song of our people going forward. So
I hope it's
Sean
2.5 hours.
It'll sound like Tom Arnold saying it. But there is this. See, it's like I see that version, the nostalgia thirst. Or I can only see it as just a flat out remake, which I know.
Yes.
But okay, so the flat out remake came out in 2022 in the alternate universe, and it completely tanked. Like it bombed royally. Nobody went to see it, but they put a rapper in it somewhere. Like like one of the kids is Mos Def or something. Or
no.
But they're like it just.
Oh no!
They would kill the vibe.
You have a dark heart. You have a dark mind. That sounds awful.
I want to modify my pitch from before now. When I said the quest, you cut me off. I meant the quest for peace. I want the Superman 4. I want to just skip all the good stuff and go straight to the Superman 4. Canon Films is going bankrupt, but they're spending their last $500,000 on a Princess Bride sequel. And, Michael Dudikoff is
not Dudikoff.
is taking over for Carrie Elway. God, this could be so good. Steve James.
Then you'd have Charles Bronson as the grandfather.
Oh, dude, I'm really into this.
You want to shut up and listen to the story?
And then Chuck Norris.
That's Charlie Bronson there. And then you got Chuck Norris probably doing something in there too.
Oh no, Chuck Norris could play fucking Chris Sarandon's role, the Prince, and Steve James is taking over for Andre the Giant. The great Steve James. Man, we got to do a canon version
only
every week.
Only if Dolph Lundgren's mullet stars in. Like that's all I want.
No. I want a movie where Menachem Golan, the head of Canon Films, sits down and tells the story of Canon Films, but he's exaggerating. And Canon made all these sword and sorcery movies, and the rule was as long as they were like 95% naked sword and sorcery, they got made. And there was a lot of those, like Sybil Danning, the Sybil Danning, Michael Dudikoff, Steve James, Charles Bronson version of Princess Bride.
Sybil Danning.
You could almost do an entirely new show. Instead of how would you pitch a sequel, you could just say, let's take this movie and figure out how Canon would do it. Because you know what I mean?
Oh, yes. Oh, God. I would love that.
You just made that man drool. If you look at the left corner of your screen, that man just drooled. Oh.
But you know what? I was watching watched Mad Max Fury Road the other day, and I know I don't remember if this is like a fan theory or whatever, but they kind of posit that Max is sort of the catalyst for folklore. You know what I mean? That it's like Like you'd be sitting around this story telling Mad Max stories. And then there was this time Mad Max wanders into this area and gets in this adventure. You could almost do that with this movie as the Black Pirate. You know what I'm saying? Or like told from my
Pirate,
toy.
yes.
It doesn't have to have anything to do with anything. He's just that guy that walks you into the next story and the next surrounding adventure. And then he goes off and does his next thing.
That would have been, you know what? That would have been a great TV series of The Princess Bride. Of like, there's a different story each week that the grandfather tells the kid, and
also I can see it as a cartoon.
But it could go
like
anywhere.
A great 80s cartoon.
Yeah, that would.
I'm getting some edutainment vibes though. Are you steering this into Young Indiana Jones Chronicles territory?
No, but it could have. It would have worked as that kind of. Well, let's be honest.
James Bond Jr.
Oh, the best cartoon ever.
Or nobody gives credit where it belongs, but CBS, NBC, and ABC movie of the week. As dumb as some of them were, there was some that were like pretty decent episodes of quality TV. And they actually did that with like Columbo. Like Columbo
went from 68 to 2003 with that premise.
But that's the thing. It wasn't a TV show. It wasn't Columbo on every week. It was Columbo.
No, they were hour and a half to 2 hour, like with commercials. They were basically 2 hour episodes of television.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Everybody always thinks it was a TV show, but Columbo were movies of the week. It just went on.
You really could do a Peter Falk type character telling a different story, completely different to, Fred Savage, who suddenly really got into this whole thing now. Or maybe the premise is Fred Savage is faking sickness so that Grandpa will come over and read him another story.
Chris, how cool would it be if you get like, because I know you love this, you get a comedy cast like, whatever league that you like.
Yeah, the David Wayne guys, the State, the Stella, Wet Hot American Summer guys.
Or you get a group like Keenan and Peele, or you get it like some of these where each week it's almost like the same actors who are doing it, but they're in different roles. So like, what if you had a cast where it was Mandy Patinkin and you had Wallace Shawn and you had Carrie Elwes, but then they brought in Andre the Giant for this episode. Or they brought in some other people, but they kind of switched roles and played with the TV audience, and you had the ones who return every week, so audiences are familiar. But like you were saying, Scott, like it could go into space for like this episode, and it's a space story, and this.
Well, and even to bring it back to Columbo again, if you watch those episodes, all those side characters were in like almost every episode for several. In fact, one guy played the killer 4 different times. Jack Cassidy was a killer like 3 times in the movie. You know what I mean? And but there were also all these side characters, and I'm like, wait a minute, he played the mortician in the other show, and now he's an Italian waiter in this episode with Donald Pleasance, and then in the next episode he's a bum or something like that. It's just crazy. So
I love that shit. If you watch Growing Pains, like through it from beginning to end, Dennis Haysbert plays like 19 different characters throughout the run of that show. Like every 3rd episode, he's like either a cop or a taxi driver or like, just a patient of, Dr. Seavers or whatever.
That or like way back when Claude Akins was in every TV show ever made, and he plays every different role possible.
Oh, and Brad Pitt played 2 different roles on Growing Pains as well. He played a new kid in town, and then a season later, he played like a rock star that Ben looked up to and treated him very poorly. Oh,
but it worked back then because you didn't have repeats. You didn't have
true.
You didn't have rewind. You didn't have recording. It just you watched it once and it disappeared forever. And then you could do that. It's only now that we see him, but that could have been a really cool TV show in like 1988. And I can see
that.
And I can't describe it, but I can see the terrible opening number to Princess Bride, the TV show, and the terrible.
I think it would be a cartoon. I keep seeing it as a cartoon in my head.
Ooh, I like
by
that.
Deke.
So who could
yeah,
I really like
I like
yeah. Oh, Deke, yeah, fuck. Oh man.
You're actually not. The thing is, it wouldn't have been a high budget because you don't have. I mean, the rat was probably what the biggest thing that needed to be.
But that works.
Special effects. Otherwise, it was just costumes, really.
The flames that shot out.
But the cheapness of it works. I mean, do you guys remember Shelley Duvall's fairy tales?
Every freaking one do I remember. Every one.
But how cheap was it, and how awesome was the cheapness?
Magical? Do you mean magical when you're saying cheap? I'm hearing cheap, but I'm sure you're meaning magical.
He doesn't mean magical.
That's all I'm saying. This girl gets it.
Amazing.
But if you did something like that, or honestly, like PBS did a version of The Princess Bride, I think it would have worked. I think it honestly would have been a great continuation from the movie.
I could see that, but only as a cartoon.
There is one more pitch in the live chat before we start to wrap it up here. But even before we get to that, I do want to pose you guys with a question to ponder while I read this pitch. Who would take over for the Billy Crystal and Carol Kane roles? Because I feel like that's really tough shoes to fill. Like, who could play those today? But while you think of that, Whiskey 401, the great Alex Bonafante, has another pitch. In his pitch, the pirate fails to rescue the princess and must forever live a life of lies and fraud. He then gets desperate enough to, it's Steven Seagal in The Mail Order Bride. Oh my God.
I feel like any of those would work with Steven Seagal.
The Seagal pitches got wild and autobiographical tonight. Very meta.
There's two groups that I would do. Well, I'll do the first one. And for me, it would be Bill Hader and she was in
Kate McKinnon. Yeah, Kate McKinnon.
Kate McKinnon.
Oh, Kate McKinnon can do anything she wants.
Yeah,
I would do those two, or Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig is another one. Can do anything she wants.
I would consider a little old school Comedy Central reunion here, but Stephen Colbert or Steve Carell,
both,
and Amy Sedaris.
Amy could eat that role and leave no crumbs.
You don't even have to write anything. She'll just, she can improv.
She knows what she's doing. Yeah, exactly.
I would do Stephen Colbert as the dad or the grandpa reading.
That would also
I could see that as well. I could definitely see that. Anytime someone from Strangers with Candy or the Craig Kilborn era Daily Show comes back, I'm here for it. 1,000,000%.
You bastard. Nobody likes Craig Kilborn.
Fuck that. Craig Kilborn was the shit. That was when Comedy Central was for real Americans who watched fucking reruns of Kids in the Hall and Win Ben Stein's Money. That was before South Park turned them all into a bunch of
you remember the A-list?
And they started making things like BattleBots.
To get the 2 15-minute comedians at night. And then
Remember Insomniac with Dave Attell? Remember Feelings and Real Emotions and Real Laughs?
Insomniac with Dave Attell, that was fantastic.
Those were goddamn golden times, and we didn't even know how good we had it. But
when McDonald would pop up on something,
from Mallrats with the Comedy Central blimp on his wall. That is.
I want to get that original Comedy Central logo as a giant fucking back piece tattoo. I would. That's just a better fucking time. But before I get on my diatribes about my fandom tattoos, do you guys have anything coming up? You want to let the people at home know about? Ian, any articles coming out?
Yes, stay tuned. Out there just this week, I released B-Movie Challenge for Face of the Screaming Werewolf, the final movie starring Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman. Terrible, but also stay tuned for the Reb Brown starring edition that I wrote for the B-Movie Challenge for a literally Predator ripoff called Robo War.
You had me at Predator ripoff.
I know,
Robo War put it.
And it's not even a ripoff. It's literally Predator, but substitute the Predator for a robot man. That's the movie. It's literally they have a guy who cuts his chest with a knife. I mean, it's literally
is that our watch party movie this weekend?
Yes, yes.
Oh
We're
god,
watching
fucking
Robo.
A. We gotta start selling tickets to these watch parties, folks, because the people
Y'all
need
are
Robo
invited.
War, and they'll pay top dollar for it. We'll send our proceeds to the Robo War Relief Fund because I'm sure they're in desperate need. For just the price of a cup of coffee, you too could have yourself.
They're in desperate need.
For the price of a cup of coffee, you too could have yourself a Robo War. But if there aren't any other takers on plugs for anything coming up, I will say that you Fandom fans might want to tune in next Wednesday at 9 p.m. when we drop a rim shot for our Ernest episode. As always, if you enjoyed this video, the best way to help is to smash that like button and leave a comment telling us what movie or TV franchise that you want us to cover on a future episode of VCR Redux. And since you're already doing that, you might as well go ahead and like, subscribe, and follow Fandom, Spotlight, and Pop Culture Punk. Till then, back up those Betamax, rewind those Laserdiscs, and we'll see you at the movies.
As you wish.